Hey everybody, welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. In this video, we're going to talk about potentially why, we're speculating, why Disney cut Walt Disney's opening day speech for yesterday's July 17th celebration at the park. Very, very depressing in my opinion. And I don't know, we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it up next.
Welcome to Orange Grove 55.
Welcome aboard to OG55. To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Yesterday was July 17th, Disneyland's 67th birthday. I was actually there. It was a good time. Aside from the Walt Disney speech not being present, everything else was fantastic. But we're going to talk about the lack of Walt yesterday. But before we do that, let's go ahead and introduce my fantastic panel right over here. Mr. Vash Guy, host of Freshly Squeezed, Dr. Dre. Vash, welcome to the channel, brother. How are you today, sir?
I am doing well. Outside of only being in audio form, the doctor isn't able to operate nearly as well as he's usually able to do. But outside of that, I'm actually doing fantastic. But yeah, I agree with you, OG. I'm a little upset about, what happened yesterday right there, or shall I say, what didn't happen yesterday. So I do appreciate you, having us on and allowing us to talk about it, because I think this is very, very important. But if anybody wants to go ahead and interact with me, they can go ahead and do so right down there, right at the bottom of my avatar right there. You'll see Vash Guy. Just type that into Twitter. My name will pop up. Follow me. Good stuff there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Perfect. Down below, Mr. Family Man 23. Welcome aboard, brother, to the channel. Welcome back. Where can everybody at home find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me on for this, as Mr. Vaskai calls it, a robust discussion, to say the least, because this is something that really needs to be talked about, and it's very important for us as a Disney community, and really to kind of look upon what the future is going to hold within this company, because we literally just was talking about something very positive, and then lo and behold, they throw us a curveball with something not so positive, but we'll get into that. But you can find me on my YouTube channel at Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. And of course, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with a little bit of sticky Disney news and info.
Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and dive right into today's topic. So yesterday, I was at the parks for Disneyland's 67th anniversary. Now, I was unable to actually be there for that celebratory moment. We asked several cast members, what time is the rededication speech? And not one cast member knew what time it was happening. So I don't know if we were asking the wrong people, because it seemed like a lot of other content creators were able to actually be there for the event. So they obviously knew what time it was happening. A lot of the cast members that I talked to had no clue what time it was. I heard 10 o'clock, 11, 5 o'clock. It was all over the map. But anyway, I digress. But one notable thing missing from yesterday's celebration was the opening day speech by Walt Disney. Now, this is a mainstay for these rededication kind of, ceremonies that they do every single year. And it's not just because it's an off year. They do it even in the off years. The 52nd, the 41st, the 63rd, it doesn't really matter. They always play Walt Disney's opening day speech, and the crowd in Town Square sings Happy Birthday to Disneyland. Yesterday, though, they didn't do that. They did not do that, and we're going to speculate as to why. Now, before we get going into our speculation as to why they didn't play Walt's opening day speech, I want to actually read you Walt's opening day speech to kind of give a little context and set the table before we start talking about it. Now, here is the speech from July 17th, 1955. It says, "To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here, age relives fond memories of the past, and here, youth may savor and challenge the promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world. Walt Disney. Now, Dre, I'm going to start with you. They left the speech out. A lot of fans are kind of speculating as to why this might be the case. I've heard everything from it's a socio-political thing to, well, it was just an oversight. I guess the guy in charge of the speech forgot to push the button, right? I've heard it all. But what do you think realistically happened here with the opening day speech?
Well, I think there are two pretty good theories that that are out there, I think, and I think that should that should be part of the conversation, so to speak, because I think they're two plausible theories, right? One is that they were maybe reformatting the celebratory festivities based on, I don't know, maybe they had some staffing concerns and couldn't have the big celebratory, shebang that they usually do with all the characters coming out there and stuff like that. And I believe, I was attempting to look at the way they celebrated it before, right? In some of these off years. And they did play the speech, but they also, I think they may have played maybe Zippity Doo Dah or some other songs, attached to that and everything, with the characters all coming out and everything like that. And maybe there was some reformatting, in regards to that, and maybe the speech wasn't included. Which I guess I was speaking to, I believe it was Laura G on Twitter, who was a former cast member. Who's kind of like this golden age of Hollywood historian almost. If you follow her Twitter account, this is what she specializes in. But she's also a huge Disneyland fan as well, and knows quite a bit about the park and its operations. And apparently, she was suggesting that ever since the '80s, it's been kind of on again, off again in terms of playing the speech on July 17th. Which is, I suppose, okay, so I guess this would be in line, but I do agree with you, OG. I mean, for the, since 2005, since the 50th, they have been pretty consistent in playing this speech at every single one of these events here. And the fact that it was omitted here, it really does suggest that something else is going on. And look, we've seen changes throughout the park in relation to a more socio-political aware company, right? A little bit more of a progressive company. And we've seen some things omitted that are or changed or modified that are maybe surprising to some of us. And is this in line with that? I mean, we've already got, Song of the South, Zippity Doo Dah, being essentially erased from the parks in general. We're seeing other types of changes move in this direction. Is this one of them? I think you have to include this as one of the possible reasons as to why this speech wasn't featured, and for the reasons that this is why we read it, in the intro of this video, because as it says right here, Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America. Well, Main Street Electrical Parade plays every single night. There is one section that they removed and replaced with something else. It was the America segment. And perhaps, I think we were talking to, some other people about this, and one of those was Disney Glimpses, which is a big fan, a friend of the channel for sure. And he was suggesting that, hey, look, this is a very polarized time for the country. Perhaps they want to get away from that kind of terminology, that kind of patriotism, so to speak, right? Because it might upset some people or whatever. But Disneyland is so Americana. I don't necessarily see how you can remove that. It's just impossible. Disneyland and American themes, they just go hand in hand, like apple pie and ice cream. I mean, that's just how that goes. But maybe I'm off base here. What do you guys think?
Well, the thing is like, yeah, no, you're not off base at all. I mean, it's definitely a possibility that this was done for that reason because it mentions America and the hard facts that created America. Like you said, with the Main Street Electrical Parade, the thing they cut out was the America segment, right? And even if we're going to stay on Main Street Electrical Parade, that parade focuses like for the intro spiel, they actually reference Walt's opening day speech, but they stick to all who come to this happy place, right? They focus on that one line.
Sure do.
No, I could definitely see the America part of this speech being a major problem in today's climate. I can definitely see Disney going, okay, this is problematic. Let's go ahead and quietly remove it. And let's see if the fans notice. Well, you know what, Disney, we did notice. And a lot of fans are not happy about it. A lot of fans are actually downright upset about it. This park and every single job held by anybody at the Walt Disney Company is because of this man.
100%.
And you're going to sit here and try to kind of minimize or erase his role or impact, I guess, into this company. It's to me that makes me furious, absolutely furious. And the speech is not problematic. There's nothing in that speech that's problematic. I'm really upset that they would cut this. And as long as I can remember, as long as I've been an annual pass holder since 2003, I believe, or 2002, they played this speech. And now all of a sudden it gets cut. Wonder why? I am very, very, look, I'm speculating. I don't know for sure. And I'm making that very clear right now. But I'd be surprised if it was anything other than the social political reasons that we're stating here. It seems like it's due to the fact that, like Dre said, it mentions America and all that stuff. And you know what? Right now, that's a little bit of a problem. And I think that's unfortunate because the park was designed and built very much inspired by, like Dre said, the Americana. So, George, what do you think in terms of the speech being cut from yesterday? Where are you kind of at with this?
I'll first start off by saying, as you had mentioned, OG, but I will reiterate this to everyone. These are just speculations of what could possibly be why it was not brought up yesterday during the 67th birthday / anniversary of Disneyland. We are not 100% sure. So we are speaking in the terms that if that is the fact case, how do we feel about it?
Yeah.
Having said that, so if that is the case, let me tell you how I feel about it. If that is true, I am literally livid and just downright pissed because this would go beyond just Walt Disney's speech, because this goes back to a time era of how people today would look at as being problematic. So would that eventually mean they change Main Street USA because it's technically in the time zone of it being problematic?
Right.
Everything involving Walt Disney of what they're saying, quote unquote, is problematic. So do you erase him, not just his speech, do you erase him from everything?
Do you take the partner statue out? Because now you have a physical,
Exactly. So it's like, do you remove all the signs that have his quotes, that have everything representing within the park that makes Disneyland Disneyland, and you're going to flush it out for it to become something that it is not? That I have a problem with. That is a huge concern of mine, because if that is the case, that's why that they removed the speech, that's just the tip of the iceberg, slowly integrating to remove Walt from Disney. And they wouldn't even have that name if it wasn't for him. And Marty Sklar actually put it perfectly at one point when I was at a D23 event, when he said that Disney is not a brand. It's not just a brand. It's not just a company. It is a person. This is Walt's company that he created from nothing, from the ground up. And they constantly say, oh, well, we respect him and we follow the philosophy and tradition of Walt Disney. Well, apparently you don't, not now. And that gripes me. And so for today, I have to say I am representing Mr. Walt Disney with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And look, again, this is all speculation, but look,
Mhm.
can you blame us for speculating going down this path, considering everything that's already happened, that this would be a problem in today's climate? Like, just think about it, right? And look, there could be a dozen other reasons why it was removed. It could just be like, maybe they're just trying to modernize the event. Maybe they're trying to make it more palatable for the general public, the normies. Maybe, but I think this is probably the most likely, to be honest.
We know that there is a group that is going through the park with a fine-tooth comb. It's called the Stories Matter Initiative, the Stories Matter group, and they have assembled a list of things, from what we understand, that are problematic. Let's say that are issues that need to be resolved one way or another, right? We've already seen the company take a huge put huge investment in this direction. I mean, look at Splash Mountain. That's going to be most likely will be a $100 million project, and that is because that IP is something that doesn't necessarily resonate with the current values of the Walt Disney Company. So they've already invested in this direction a considerable amount. And look, this is headed by Carmen Smith and some others, right? This is definitely working within the kind of Reimagine Tomorrow framework, which, by the way, got the company into quite a bit of trouble and has caused some significant damage to the image of the Disney company. For months now, we're seeing that reflected in the box office of all things. I believe that Park Place had a very interesting article featuring the box office totals that they should have had for some of their films and what they are now. This has cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. And so the idea that this is out of the realm of possibility, that they remove this speech because of sociopolitical reasons. No, this is something very in line and consistent with what they've been doing so far.
Right.
And even Iger, to a certain point, remember they removed the Walt Disney Studios right from the logo. Like this was like 10 years ago or something like that during the Iger era, very early on. This has been something that's been happening for a little while now. And so, I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility of it actually happening. I'm sorry, OG, go ahead.
No, you're absolutely correct. It's not out of the realm of possibility of actually happening. We've seen other things like this, and I'm not even totally against modernizing these parks. I've said many times here on OG55 that the Princess and the Frog theme for Splash Mountain is a good theme. It really is. If you're going to retheme Splash Mountain, that's the best IP to do it with. All I'm asking is that they do it right. They give a proper budget and make it really well done. And I support it 150%. 150%. But the thing that I have a problem with this is that this is like you're taking something. This is the man who founded the fucking company, and you're taking it and you're cutting him out of the celebration for the park. He is the reason why the park is there in the first place. It's extremely frustrating to sit there and watch a celebration about this park, his baby, and have him completely cut out of the whole equation. With his cheesy birthday balloon stuff. It's like, where is Walt Disney? This is his park, and we get that speech every single year, and now it's gone. And a lot of people are trying to say, like, oh, well, this was an oversight. Like the guy who was in charge of pushing the Walt Disney opening day speech button, I guess, fell asleep for a moment and didn't push the button or something. Like it was a total oversight. I don't buy that for a second. That for a second. Are you kidding me? You think that's what it is? No. Please.
This goes beyond just changing an attraction or updating a land. You're looking way far going beyond the highest point that you could ever take something and cause a controversy as big as this within the Disney community. And that's getting rid of the founder, the creator, the innovator, the head Imagineer of everything. To the people that said it couldn't be done, he made it happen.
Right.
So for people to then walk through those gates, walk through those turnstiles and say, well, I'm walking through here to support this. I'm for it. I love this park. But then you're going to denounce the man who actually gave you this park? It's like, how big of a hypocrite are you? It's like, I mean, that's like a contradiction at its finest.
Well,
It's Disneyland. It's called Disneyland. What do you think it was named after? You think it was named after the company? No, it was named after Walt Disney Land. That's what it's all about. And that was reiterated with Walt Disney World, as Roy famously did. It wasn't Disney World, it was Walt Disney World.
Right.
These are his parks right here. And the fact that you're going to rip them out, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And the reality of the situation is that Disneyland was inspired, and he says it right here in the speech, that Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America. That is America. It was a huge inspiration for this park.
Absolutely.
A huge inspiration. You can almost say the park is really themed to America. Yeah. And then you're going to sit there and then say that that's problematic, and now we're not going to show the whole speech because he mentions that it was based on America. Well, that's what it was based on. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. There is nothing wrong with admitting that. And I'm telling you guys right now, if that is the problem, and again, we're speculating, but if that America stuff in the speech is the reason why it was completely cut, what they might do in the future, and I'm calling it now, is they're going to start to surgically remove lines and utilize them in certain ways. So for example, the next birthday celebration, you might get "To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land," yada, 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 mixed with a little music. Then it'll segue right into, with the hope that it'll be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world. They'll be carefully edit this speech where you're hearing lines, certain lines, but they're dancing around the America stuff. I can definitely see them doing that. Right? Oh, well, we're including his speech, but we're just sort of editing it and presenting it in a way very similar to what they do with the fireworks show. A lot of times with these fireworks shows like Disneyland Forever, you don't get the whole speech. You don't get like a whole speech or a whole thing. You get like just a line from Walt Disney. I think they might go down that route in the future. I think the America part of this whole thing is going to be left out. Now we'll see. There's been a lot of outrage on Twitter and social media about leaving the speech out. A lot more than I thought, actually. I really didn't think a lot of people would stand up for this, and there are quite a few. It's very possible Disney is hearing this loud and clear and saying, all right, fine, we messed up. We'll add it the next time. And I hope that's the case. But I wouldn't be surprised, though, if next year they do some really fancy, clever editing to kind of include it, but leave out that one line. I would not be.
They're gonna add in some beatboxing behind it and turn it into like the next version of Mickey's Mix Magic. Like they're just gonna like have like it like where Walt's rapping it.
We talk about it's interesting you say that, George, because we talk about the changes going on at the company, right? We talk about what happened following the events of 2020. Because of that, Disneyland, it's very kind of interesting because it had one foot in the past, one foot in the future. Really, right. There was a lot of old timers that were still there, that were kind of intrinsic to maintaining the values of Disneyland and passing them down to the next generation. And then there were some newcomers. Obviously, you want to take it into a new direction, obviously, with new technology and so forth, right? And those kind of competing forces would balance out the Disneyland experience going forward. Well, a lot of those old timers got purged from the events of 2020 and beyond. And so there's been a cultural shift that's happened with the entire Disneyland Resort, from what I understand. It would be, when you lose that much staff, when you lose that many cast members and so forth, you would obviously have a cultural shift and a reassessment of the cultural norms going forward. And so with that all kind of being said, is it outside of the realm of possibility that they would want to take maybe Disneyland in a new direction by maybe omitting this or maybe changing this or whatever? No, and we've been seeing that consistently throughout following the events of the pandemic and so forth. But go ahead, George. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Well, I was just going to add to that is look at Walt Disney World's 50th celebration. They didn't take Walt out. They didn't even add him in to that. That should be something that was his last final dream, his final vision that he wanted Walt Disney World, what he wanted Walt Disney World to become with Epcot Center and what have you. It's supposed to be a living quarters, not a theme park.
Right.
And they didn't even incorporate any of that. It was just a merchandise grab. Is basically when I just came back from my trip to Walt Disney World, I saw 50th celebration merchandise everywhere, but it just felt like a normal day. It did not feel like a celebration that Disney always creates for these special milestones. The last time I actually had that feeling was Disneyland 60th. And that's where it kind of concerns me, because for Disneyland Forever, that's the last time I actually heard them incorporate Walt, where you actually heard Walt's voice, his story at the very beginning and at the very end of Disneyland Forever. And that concerns me with this new fireworks show coming that's going to replace Disneyland Forever, which I know not all, fireworks shows, last forever, no pun intended, but but it just makes me wonder, is Wondrous going to be another enchantment?
Oh man, I hope not.
That's the fear. That's the fear going forward. I mean, and even if it was like an omission, right? Even if it was, you know what, we put on this show, we didn't schedule out the speech or whatever, or we didn't get the audio work and everything like that kind of thing. You're right in front of the plaque. Can't have somebody read it just over the audio right there? At least acknowledge that it exists. The fact that they omitted it outright, I mean, that is really cause for concern.
And that's where it gripes me, because we were just talking about this, that Disney can do the impossible. They can reroute a canal. They can shift buildings around. They can add a freaking Galaxy's Edge right behind the river and what have you. But someone can't come on the intercom and read a speech.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why I think it was purposely left out. And we're speculating. I'm going to say it again for like the 5th time. We're speculating, but come on, viewers at home, why was it left out?
If you can't acknowledge Walt Disney and his ideal and vision for Disneyland on the day of its anniversary, then how else are you failing to acknowledge Disney, Walt Disney, his values, and what he brought to this park in other instances, right? In the private meetings that take place in Team Disney Anaheim, or with budgetary restrictions that as they figure this stuff out at Burbank, or for new additions as they are worked out in the halls of Glendale at WDI. In what other ways are you not acknowledging Walt Disney? This is why this is a big deal, because if you can't do it here, you can't do it there. And that's why this is profoundly important. This is not just about some words that were, uttered by somebody 67 years ago. This is about a vision, an ideal, what the parks represent and what they're all about.
Oh, 100%, right? And it's very much is that slippery slope of like, okay, so now we can't play his opening day speech. So what's next? Can we not have him, like I said before? Can we not have a partner statue? Because maybe Walt Disney in 1965, 66, or 1955 or whatever had problematic ideas because he was in a different era than we are now. So do we remove the statue? Does Epcot get the Walt statue? Because now we're deeming basically Walt Disney to be very problematic in general. Does Epcot get the statue? Mm-hmm. This is what I'm saying. And again, I know a lot of people are going to think, oh, you're going too far with it. No, you're not. I'm not, though. Because once you start down this road of like omitting stuff because, oh, well, you know what? The speech and this and that. And before you know it, it's a full-blown ban. Oh, we can't mention him at all because he's a problem. He's problematic. Before you know it, that's where it goes. That's where it leads to eventually. And I think it's very, very sad. I think it's very, very sad.
From what I understand, the Stories Matter initiative, they got the list. It's not just about the slippery slope or where it leads to. They have plans to lead it there. And that, as George astutely points out, are you going to get rid of Main Street? What about Frontierland? Ooh, there's some stuff in there that, it's of questionable, what is it, inclusion. Today, or what should I say? It might offend some people. The facade for Haunted Mansion. Well, that's something of interest right there, and and it's just going down the line here, and we might see omissions or changes or any number of things that might be perplexing to us, but I think this is definitely a sign of those things to come, unfortunately, and it's horrible to even go there.
Mhm.
Right.
But this has been consistent with their behavior throughout leading up to this point.
Well,
My
and that's
fear. Oh, sorry, OG.
Well, I was just saying that's why, as fans, we all have to be very vocal
Mhm.
that we want this speech it's 1 day a year. It's one
Yeah.
day a year. It's a
Yeah.
30-second, not even a 30-second speech. Just leave it in. That's all we're asking. As fans, Disney, if you're watching this by any chance, leave it in. We love the Disney's history. Walt Disney is the only reason why that park even exists. It's the only reason why any people working for the Walt Disney Company even have a job. Can we get a 15 to 20-second speech once a year, please? That's all we're asking. That's all we are asking. Go ahead, George.
And honestly, if it was up to me, you'd be hearing that speech every morning when the park opens. That would be that would be me. It'd be like, the fireworks was always the kiss goodnight. This would be the good morning. That when you open up the park, it's like the first thing that you hear is Walt's voice, because without him, that park would not be there.
Right.
And that is my fear. My fear is that there's going to be a point of time. It may not be in our generation in time, but our kids' generation, that they go into Disneyland and it's not Disneyland. Not to what we know it is,
Right.
not to what we remember it as. For what we know, and that's what kind of, as I said, concerns me, is Disneyland just going to end up looking like the next Six Flags? Is it going to end up looking like the next whatever, the run-of-the-mill carnival pier, something that always stood out as Disneyland? Is it going to become just another entity in the entertainment industry as just, it's another park? Disneyland is not one of those things, but the route that they are going is my fear that it's going to become that.
Yeah.
And I don't want
Unfortunately-
it to become.
Go ahead, Pat.
Oh, sorry. And unfortunately, they're being, they're taking on the identity of some of these other, parks and policies, procedures, practices, and so forth. I mean, this has been happening for a little while now. I mean, even Paul Pressler famously said, "Well, if it's good enough for Six Flags, it's good enough for us." I mean, that's what he said. And so it's to your point, George. I mean, when you lose sight of the original vision and you cast out a man like Walt Disney, you lose those values that really are attached to some of these, these places that he imbued when he originally created them. And that's why, I mean, George, to your point, I even go a step beyond. I mean, for every single castle park around the world that is to celebrate their celebration going forward, I would include the speech there, because Disneyland inspired those parks and beyond.
Right.
So it's very disheartening to see this omitted in this way. Like I said, the speech, the plaque was right there. You got to have somebody just walk up and read it. That's it.
Right. And 99% of the speech is a very inclusive speech. That's the ironic thing. To all who come to this happy place, and an inspiration to all the world. It's a very inclusive speech, but because they say the word America in there, it's problematic. Why? It's absolutely ridiculous. It pisses me off to no end. It's
so inclusive that they replaced "Ladies and Gentlemen, Boys and Girls" at the start of Main Street Electrical Parade with "To all who come to this happy place." So we know that there are aspects of the speech that they approve of. But go ahead, George.
No, so I was just going to say, but actually, to your point, Dre, it's like the problematic became the problematic. If they're going to do that, they're just like weeding out every little aspect of like, oh, well, we could use it here, but we won't use it here. It's like, again, contradiction at its finest. But
Ridiculous.
but what I was going to say, do you fellas feel that, I mean, I may be going a little bit overboard here, but do you think that's why there's a heavy delay as to why none of the content involving Walt has made it on to Disney Plus?
Well, I mean, to be fair, Disney Plus does have quite a bit of Walt content. I've seen a lot of Walt Disney content on Disney Plus, but you make a good point though, in terms of like a lot of the other stuff, like Disneyland goes to the World's Fair and stuff like that. That was promised to us like 2 years ago. We never got it. Yeah, maybe it's possible that's why they're holding back on that stuff. It's possible. I don't really remember all those things. So I don't really remember what's in there, but I could definitely see that being an issue. What do you think, Dre?
That's an interesting point. I mean, we have it's weird because we've seen like from WDI, for example, right? I think it was like now, oh man, I guess it's more than 10 years ago now. But when the Imagineers were talking about the explanation behind Buena Vista Street and why they went in that direction for the introductory land for Disney's California Adventure. The idea was, well, I guess they did some focus group testing and they found that a lot of people, especially, Disney fans emerging and so forth, and people going to these parks, didn't actually know that Walt was even a person. He's just been corporatized and changes the kind of the brand for this park so much that we've lost touch with the actual person himself. So
Right.
The Imagineers were inspired. Okay, well, let's put Walt into this park. Let's really imbue this land with Walt. And that's why there's so many references to him. And that's why his statue exists in the way it does, is because they wanted to bring that out. They wanted to restore that. And it's like I said, it's disheartening that 10 years later we're even having this kind of discussion, and this is at all plausible. But I think, George, to your point, I think to OG's point as well, I think there is a lot of Walt content, but maybe that starts to fall off slowly, and maybe doesn't get added to as we move on in Disney Plus's life cycle. Maybe it's inspired by the fact that Walt Disney was a little bit more controversial than they would like.
Right.
It really is unfortunate.
So it's just like picking and choosing what they would want Walt as representative with. So if there's something that was back in the day that was recorded, it's like, oh yeah, we could use this. They'll throw it in there. But if they go back into the vault and they say, this was a little bit, controversial, problematic, whatever, and it's like, we better not add that. We better cut that. Or
we already see that with the photoshopped, images of Walt when he was holding a cigarette. They photoshopped the cigarette out of his hand. So we've already seen that, this kind of pick and choosing of, what Walt we want to highlight, what Walt we want to kind of stay away from. And it's that's not great either. It's weird because I think the Disney Wish just debuted. I was watching Ordinary Adventures' video on it, and what I found was that they renamed one of the food courts to Marceline's. So they're still referencing it, but like you said, George, it's a little pick and choose right now.
Yeah, and to be fair, to be completely fair to current Disney, like you touched upon, Dre, they have been sort of picking and choosing and very, very image conscious of Walt. Even Walt himself, when he was alive, would even tell you. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched that PBS special on Walt Disney, but he even admitted the Walt Disney you see on camera is not the Walt Disney behind the scenes. Like Walt drank. He was not the gee golly kind of guy behind the scenes, and it was very much a public persona. So he's been kind of editing himself from the beginning. And then when he passed away, then the company started to do that with like you said, photoshopping out the cigarettes and things like that. And now potentially even going as far as to kind of eliminating speeches because it's politically, not okay right now and things like that. So it's been an ongoing issue really from the beginning. But I just worry because it is something that you go down this path, and before you know it, it's just it'll be taboo to even mention them or something, and I know a lot of people think that's the extreme, but once you start, you You never know how far that will go. And it's really sad because nobody at the Walt Disney Company would have a job if not for this man. We would not have a Disneyland if not for this man. We would not have a Walt Disney World if not for this man. We would not have a lot of the things that we all love dearly if not for this man. And all we're asking as Disney fans is to have a 15 to 20-second speech once a fucking year. And apparently that's a problem.
And
if you don't like it,
okay.
Oh, no, sorry, Vash.
And if you don't like it,
if you don't like it, don't go. There's other places you could go.
Right. Yeah. Go to Universal. Go to Knott's.
Well, hey, they don't have much Walt references there. That's for sure. But look, listen, well, I think Knott's does, but Universal it definitely does not. But the interesting thing about this is you say, OG, that it's kind of like what is it? This kind of idea behind Walt and how people think of him, it's a bit extreme, right? How they want to remove him and so forth. Well, I know for a fact some people on this Twitter, they have a very different impression and different idea of who Walt Disney was. And of the labels they place on him in the modern context and so forth. This is a lot more mainstream than people realize. And so that's why I think, our kind of first kind of reaction to this was, they're removing it for these reasons, because we're seeing this in other aspects on this Twitter and otherwise that lend credence to this idea. So it's like I said, I hope this is not the case. I really do. Maybe it was some people who were just like, hey, you know what? We just forgot that day. Maybe it was. Hopefully it was. And hopefully we get a return to the speech being played at least on July 17th every single year. But,
and I agree with you, Dre. I really hope that is the case too, because I would hate to think it would be for the other purpose. And again, folks, if that is the case and Disney ends up making a public announcement as to why it wasn't played yesterday, please, we ask you to, see this as this is our thoughts and opinions, that if it is true, we are not saying it is. This is our own personal thoughts of how we're seeing it. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, it's speculation. It's 100% speculation. It's just it's an educated guess based on what we're kind of seeing, the trends. So fascinating conversation, and I'm sure we will have more of these debates going forward because this is a very big deal. I know some fans kind of don't think that this is a big deal, but it is very much a big freaking deal. Deal. Yeah, huge, massive. Dre, if we can kind of close it out, if you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Hey, at the bottom of my avatar, you'll see Vash Sky. You can go ahead and type that into the Twitter, and if you want to, you can follow me right there. And if you want to see me, well, go ahead and subscribe, do all the things to follow this channel, because that is exactly where you're seeing me at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Perfect. And down below, we got the Mr. Family Man 23. If you can let everyone at home know where they can find you on social media, George.
Absolutely. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George, which is always a breath of fresh air. And of course, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with some juicy, sweet, but sticky Disney news and info.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Thank you all so much for watching. I would love to hear everyone's opinions. We all would love to hear everyone's opinions on the erasing of the Walt Disney opening day speech yesterday for Disneyland's 67th anniversary. What are your thoughts on that? Do you kind of agree with us that it's a big deal? Do you disagree with us? Maybe it's not such a big deal. Do you agree with our speculation that it's due to these kind of political reasons or not? Maybe you feel it's for another reason. Comment down below. We're open to all ideas, all opinions, whether you agree or disagree. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.